how that's a great first example, and that's from a very long time ago. Um, what do you see as the applications if we look at kind of like post World War II?
Mhm.
How do you see that in terms of that growth of outsourcing, growth of the
Sure.
services
So,
provision?
yeah, if you think about the economy, right? The economy grows and you get innovation when you specialize. So like you go, agrarian society, right? You might have ran your farm, did your hunting, fishing, whatever. Occasionally you'd go, Pony Express days, right? You'd go into town for the things you couldn't do yourself. And so you'd always buy stuff, but it was small stuff. You buy cloth, but you make your own clothes with it. You buy the sewing machine to make it with, right? Whatever. Well, as you get more technological and you get more specialized, then you find that there's things you're good at, your core competencies, and I'm referring to you as a company now, not as an individual. And there's things that you're just not good at. So they call it context, typically. So the core things you need to do that gives you a business advantage in selling your products and services, whatever it is that you do as a company. The context stuff, somebody else is better at it. So, for example, you know. Um, again, my previous company, way back in ancient history, we used to buy PCs. Well, actually, back up. I'll go even farther back. So pre-merger, if you were an engineer, you could have a pile of parts delivered to your desk, and you can make a custom designed PC just for you, whatever you wanted, which is very customer centric but completely unsustainable,
I
right?
bet they
Because
loved
they're all
it though.
different. Oh, they loved it. Yeah, they absolutely loved it. And they were engineers, right? So they like to
Yeah,
do this. The problem was that wasn't good use of people's time. And if something broke, they were all different. You couldn't fix it. So the first big thing that we bought was PCs from Dell. Well, over time, um, one of the guys that worked for me was in a QBR or a quarterly business review, and happened to have a hallway conversation with Michael Dell and said, "So what do you guys want to be when you grow up as a company?" And he went, "Well, I want to be IBM." I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, they do services. And so, we just build PCs right now, but if we build them, we can support them. We do service desk. We do like, there's a bunch of things that are ancillary to that that we have the specialized knowledge about. And so that company, we actually had them bid against like, IBM and HP and, the usual suspects, CSC back then, whoever. And Dell actually won the services contract to support the hardware that they were already giving us. And that expanded and expanded and expanded. So basically became like a desktop as a service, and you put in the service desk and all that. And the idea was if you buy the computer and you buy the support service separately, there's a big opportunity to sub-optimize. If you make that a combined service and you have like a refresh rate of say 4 years, they're going to give you the quality of device that's going to last that 4 years, or else they're going to end up having a higher cost of supporting the devices, whether a laptop service center or a call center or whatever it is, right? And so you incentivize by the right parts and pieces being combined together, you incentivize having a good holistic well-running program. Because why do you outsource this stuff? Well, it's too expensive to build yourself, even if you have the capability. A team full of rocket scientists, yes, they could build their own stuff, but it doesn't make sense. They're better off building the rockets or the missiles or the airplanes or whatever, right? Um, and so what it does is it takes your context, gives it to a company who that's their core competency. They do it better, faster, cheaper, more reliably, whatever than you do. And so there's a win-win there, but you set the deal up in a way that's going to be sustainable over time. And that particular contract, I think we negotiated that in like 1999. And last I'd heard, I don't work there anymore, but a couple 3 years ago when I left, 3 years ago when I left, that contract was still in place.
wow.
Now it had been, it had morphed over time, right? Statements of work had been adjusted. Things had, there was technological um, change, obviously, over that long period of time. But because it was a managed service, it was, hardware, software services combined and done in a smart way. That contract lasted 20 years. Now, typically an outsourcing deal is, 5 to 7, maybe 10 years. But the point is, if you set it up right, it can last for a really long time. And so when I talk to non-procurement people, I say, look, you know, if you're going to you're hungry, you don't feel like cooking, you go out to dinner. I order my steak, that's my statement of work. Medium rare, that's my SLA. If the restaurant provides what I wanted, I pay them. Maybe I even give them a nice tip. I have a nice dinner. If they burn my steak, I send it back and they fix it and it's on them, right? That's a pretty good, that's like outsourcing. I mean, except for the time frame, right? It's a pretty good way of buying things because they're the expert. They're going to get it just right, and you only pay for it if you get what you wanted. If, on the other hand, I hire a private chef and the private chef burns my steak, now I have to not only buy a new steak, I have to pay the chef to cook it again, right? That's not as effective of way of doing it. And so, if I'm not a world-class chef and I want to go, get that wonderful steak dinner, I'm better off going to the restaurant in most instances. Right. And
Yeah,
so that's kind of the same philosophy, just as a bigger services deal that's combining a bunch of stuff together. Right. Does that make sense?
yeah, it's a really good example actually. I've never heard that example, that kind of metaphor, that description of to outline services and to position it in that way. I think it's really good actually, um, and it never ceases to amaze me how people are quite short-sighted sometimes, where their knee-jerk reaction to the idea of outsourcing something is just
Yeah.
that it's more expensive than hiring people or hiring contractors, and it's just a different way of doing things. The risk, the liability, the responsibility sits in different places. You're
Right.
buying a different thing, and also going on to that kind of outcome-based scenario, you are buying an outcome. You're buying as you say, the statement of work is that you've ordered a steak. The SLA is that you wanted it medium rare, and everything else that comes with it is the kind of ancillaries that go around that. Um,
Right.
but you are guaranteed that. Whereas actually, the other side of it is if someone says to you, "Yeah, I'm gonna cook you a steak," and they take 3 days to do it, and you've hired them as a contractor, they take 3 days to do it. That's probably less effective. But
Right.
it's
You're paying for effort. Right. If you hire a contractor, you're paying for effort. Sometimes that's good, but you're not buying a deliverable. You're buying somebody's time. And so you don't have that guarantee that they're actually going to deliver anything that's acceptable to you. And if they don't, you keep paying until they do, right?